What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Real Frame of Mind presents Director Breakdown. If you're just coming from our review of Blade Runner 2049, as you can see, we haven't changed.
What?
Yeah,
Same night. Weird.
Oh, shit. Anyways, our boy, Dennis Villeneuve. You said he didn't have an E on the end of his name.
Yeah,
You're fucking wrong.
Yeah, you're a liar.
No, I said the E is silent, jackasses.
No, you said he didn't have an E on the end
I
of it.
said there was an E, but you don't pronounce the E on the end.
Every time I hear somebody talk about his name, they pronounce
Villeneuve.
it completely different.
Villeneuve.
I watched an interview with it.
I think it's a
Denis
choose your own last
Villeneuve.
name.
Well, whatever. He's a Canadian. You know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Fucking French Canadian too, the worst kind of Canadian.
Yeah, I mean, this guy
But this one's
is. It seems to me that this guy just kind of came out of nowhere. Denis V was born French Canadian in 1967. He went to what is he? I'm trying to read something and I can't read it. He started as a filmmaker at the National Film Board of Canada, whatever that means. Who knows if he went to school or whatnot? I'm just kidding. Look, a quick rundown of his films, starting back when he did a documentary short in 1994. His first feature film was Maelstrom in the year 2000. I believe that one's on YouTube. If you want, check it out. If you go up then to 2009, you have Polytechnique, which is another feature, and then a film that you should be able to access relatively easier than the first two, which is Incendies. Check that one out because that one is a total mind you-know-what. It is unbelievable. It is about two young kids that try to find out the backstory about their mother, and it flashes back to her time in like some sort of uprising. There was like a uprising in the country. I'm trying to remember. To the Middle East to discover their family history and then fulfill their mother's last wishes, which is just it's an unbelievable. Oh, I remember the twist.
There you go.
Watch it because the twist is unbelievable. It's some serious shit. Incendies. Go to your local library, rent that. It was awesome. It really opened the door for Denis V's. Actually, no, it didn't, because I watched all his other movies before that, so scratch that. Going then to 2013 was one of his more mainstream films. I feel like everyone has seen Prisoners with your boy. Hugh Jackman, yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Terrence Howard. Paul Dano. All of them are there.
Yep. And after Prisoners came Enemy, a little bit more of a quiet film, but I guarantee you've seen one of his most interesting scenes in movies is definitely from Enemy. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the movie or just go and Google it.
Yeah.
And then 2015 is Sicario, was absolutely amazing. And then you have Arrival in 2016 and Blade Runner 2049, which brings us to doing this director breakdown for Denis V. Guys, First Blood, what was your First Blood for Denis V film?
Prisoners was my first blood. Probably most people's. Is that what you meant by that?
Yeah.
Okay. Which was it blew me away. Just not even by the overall look and aesthetics of it, but the direction and how he went in unique places that I feel like most directors wouldn't with a story like that. And he really brought a lot out of his cast as well in that film, and it was a good prospect, but I guess I really couldn't see where it would catapult him and how he's done since. It's just astounding. But yeah, First Blood was Prisoners.
Agreed. Yeah, Prisoners was my first. I liked the movie. It's good. I think that kind of catapulted Jake Gyllenhaal back into the A-list.
It started the spiral to getting to Nightcrawler and then so on and so forth. Yeah, I
think it just gave him that little bit of a push, and then he started climbing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I believe my First Blood was, I think it was Sicario.
Really?
Yeah, I for a long time I stayed away from Prisoners because I felt like it was some sort of, you've seen that kind of movie before,
Yeah.
where somebody kidnaps one kid and the dad
Goes ape
goes
shit.
ape shit, and then that kind of ride. But it's
Yeah.
so
Right.
much more than that. It's so much more psychological.
Yes.
And like we'll talk about later, it's got so many ties to just the human spirit. And Sicario was one that a couple podcasts that I watched were really high on. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go check it out, and I absolutely loved that film. If you don't know what Sicario is about, it's about the drug wars in Mexico. You got Emily Blunt in it.
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro. That
Josh
dude from
Brolin.
Burn Notice.
Yep.
That guy's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There's one scene in there, and I'll tell you right now, just stop what you're doing, stop watching us, if you haven't already, and go check out on YouTube, or just go click in the search bar, the Sicario scene with the traffic. It's unbelievable. That
Yeah.
scene is so high tension. It's
Is the main character of Burn Notice?
yeah.
Jeffrey Donovan. Okay.
Yeah, he's good, and he's good in this scene too.
Yeah.
It's insane what goes on, and it's such an intense movie throughout the entire thing, and it's not like high octane action, but he does a good job, just like he does in Blade Runner 2049, to kind of sprinkle it in where it needs to be sprinkled in.
And I think what you said about this film really translates to most of this film, and that's the psychological aspect he brings out of his characters, and the humanistic elements through them, and you really can see that through all of them. Be it Prisoners, even Enemy, with the duality and individualism of that film, and then Sicario, and then even to Arrival. If this is a good bridge, to talk about that, because that was my favorite film of 2016, and I just, seeing that film in theaters, I had an experience I haven't had since Interstellar, and I really can't remember before that. So that film really took what most people would think a blockbuster summer sci-fi would be, and blew that out of the water. It's almost like Denny's making a new wave of how blockbusters and Hollywood movies should be done, because he still attributes the artistry that he has from his independent films and from some lesser films, and translates that to these movies that are bigger budgets, which is one of the reasons why I love Arrival. It bridges all the things that I love about film with great aesthetics and an awesome script, and then the way he directed it is just flawless. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think one commonality that you can find throughout his films is sort of that human spirit, and what happens to his characters in general, about through the story, and how their human characteristics are going to come out, whether it be a typical dad that lives in the suburbs, and all of a sudden he has this darker side to him, like in Prisoners, or a guy that has, seemingly a decent life with a wife and a baby on the way, and he's a professor, but also has this weird duality, like you said, like an Enemy.
Yep.
And even then, obviously, in Blade Runner, the themes that you get from the first film that sort of bleed into Blade Runner 2049, but Incendies as well, which we explained earlier. The two kids trying to find out what happened to their mother and fulfill her final wishes, as we see what was going on in their mother's life. I'm probably missing a couple, but even in Arrival, you're talking about actually, communication between the human race, and that to me it's so
which is one of the greatest aspects of a film like that, is because it's a sci-fi film about alien encounter, but that's not what the movie's about. It's not the essence of it. It's making humans communicate, which is great, because in any other director's hands, that movie could have gone a different route. Same with Prisoners. That movie could have just been a by the books movie that we've seen similar concept or some premises of in the past, but in Denny's hand, it's something different and unique, and that's why I think, like you said in the previous in our review of Blade Runner 2049, is that Denny is probably going to be looked back. I mean, if he keeps going on this trajectory that he's on, he's going to be looked back as one of the next, possibly. I mean, I know it's early in his career, but he could be possibly one of the next, big name directors.
Well, think about it. Okay, if the definition of a decent director or a director that should be remembered through history is 3 good films. Think about it. Arrival, Sicario, Prisoners, Enemy for people that have seen it, Incendies for people that have seen it, and then now Blade Runner 2049, which is getting outrageous views. Outrageous in a good way, sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it is.
But one thing that's great about his films as well, and I think Damon can agree with me, is it's not just what your characters have to go through, but it's the payoffs. He uses those characteristics from the humans, and there's always repercussions that happen, no matter what. I mean, even look at Blade Runner. We all 3 seen Blade Runner 2049.
Yep.
And if you think about Ryan Gosling's character and that journey that he's taken on, the things that he does and the things that he believes in, the paths he goes down, all lead him to his ending, his fate.
Yes.
And it's all there.
Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah. I mean, you loved Arrival too, didn't you?
I really did.
What were some of the biggest things that Denny V did for you in that film?
And it's stuff that he does in Blade Runner as well. It's the cinematography, the landscapes, like the big sweeping landscapes. It was just like this whole wide open area with, the alien craft in the middle of it, and it just looked so fucking gorgeous. The direction for most of the characters, I've always said that I didn't super enjoy Amy Adams in that movie, but everyone else, I really did enjoy, and they all, as you were saying, the payoffs. I mean, especially with Amy Adams' character, like everything leads to her, like even like because that movie's a mind fuck in its own. A part of the
it is, yeah.
Where you have this like fucking, you think it's the past, but it's actually the future and the present, and it's all leading into the same middle. Like she and it's the greatest payoff that I've seen in a long time.
Yep.
For that character, and a character I didn't even really enjoy, but it was still just a great payoff, and I think that's what he can do. Like characters I don't like, I can still feel rewarded by watching them.
And an aspect you mentioned that I think it kind of could be attributed to most of his films is that he can go from a grand epic scope of be it landscape or the setting to, especially in Arrival is a good example because you have the encounter with the aliens. It's just this huge massive open field and open area, and then you have the elements of Amy Adams' character in this isolated personal home, which is where she was before she got dragged and brought into all this
even when
mess.
she does get dragged, she's in a tent.
Yeah,
she's in a tent with a bunch of people. And it
exactly.
Still feels big.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think that can be pushed over to Prisoners, which is in a sense of scope compared to most of the other movies is smaller setting. You know what I mean? But still has big feel and big repercussions for the characters in the story.
It always means something, and they always say a great filmmaker, nothing is in there by accident. And when you watch a movie like Prisoners, and the feeling that you get of like that sort of claustrophobic feeling, and the things that go on in that with the pits and that shower that he makes, like it gets to the point where it is so claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And think about it. I mean, when Gyllenhaal is first out on his rounds at that one like priest's house, and he's got to go in that that basement with no stairs, and even that is a feeling of like isolation, and it's tough. And just the way Deakins shot it with being very, very blue and dark, it's so great. But also the way that he parallels stories, and I can say this for definitely Arrival. I guess Prisoners, because Gyllenhaal does play a big part in it. Enemy, Gyllenhaal plays seemingly two characters.
Yeah.
And then Incendies, where you have the flashback of the mom, and then you juxtapose that with the two kids trying to find out what happened. Like,
Right.
I don't know if any of those could match up to, or do match up to, the way they do it with Arrival. But even on any level, whichever film it was that he does that in, the thought that has to go in that, and how perfect that has to be from a storytelling standpoint. Otherwise, you just get lost. Like, you're messing with the audience on purpose, and then bringing it back around to all of a sudden now bringing it together and being like, oh, there's your payoff, and then, like, that's just, it's brilliant.
Yes.
It's ballsy, and he does it really, really well.
And I think that's a nice attribute too of him, is that ballsy is a great word to describe it, because I was reading an interview with him recently about what drew him to do Blade Runner. You know what I mean? Obviously, everything he's done since his original work, or adapted from something that's not a previous film, and he said, I said no like 4 or 5 times, because it's such a big thing to take, and I have to go all in with my films. I have to give it my all, and he was convinced to do it because he said the fear. He has to accept these things that are going to challenge him, and that he's scared of. Like, he said he was terrified of taking a movie that big.
Yeah.
But he has to do it, because how are you going to get better? And I think that's just a great way to look at what he is, as how he is as a director, and that's why I think sky's the limit for him moving forward.
Definitely. And I think if you look at all of his films, going Blade Runner, Arrival, Sicario, Enemy, Prisoners, Incendies, Polytechnique, and Maelstrom, he doesn't give a lot to the audience. And I think we said in the review, he gives a lot more in Blade Runner than he does really any of his other films.
Definitely.
And still, it's not a whole lot. And so the trust that he puts into, and almost it's like this respect that he has for his audiences to follow along. But it's not just the respect for the audience; it's the respect for his work, that the confidence in his work that he could have, where he won't tell you everything because he's confident that you'll be able to figure it out. Right. Through what's transpiring on film, what's happening,
which is the way it should be. Because,
exactly.
I mean, if you're not able to give the audience what you're trying to say in the way you're trying to say it, without compromising that, then I feel like, what's the point then, right? So,
do you feel like with Denis V, there are any glaring, deficiencies? Like, is he
weaknesses or?
I don't. Honestly, yeah. I mean, like, I really can't.
I think if we go back to his first couple of films, even Prisoners, I'd say maybe, but he's progressively gotten better and better and better.
Yeah.
To where, like, he's fixed the things that I would have pointed out that I didn't like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just looking at, like, the fact that he did Arrival and Blade Runner back to back within the matter of a year of each other, that's just ridiculous in its own right. Yeah. But I mean, Sicario was a year before that. Like, he has ascended the rankings of. I mean, like, just looking. I know this is kind of diverting from his deficiencies, I guess, if he had any, but looking his short span of making, I guess, studio films from Prisoners to Blade Runner now, and it's been less than 5 years. It's pretty crazy to see that transgression of how he's grown, and you can see his growth too. I mean, obviously, Prisoners isn't a terrible film, but I think he's grown over the course of it as a filmmaker. I honestly can't really think of a bad thing to say about him. I mean, maybe some of his films aren't for everyone. Maybe there is a specific audience type that definitely has to get into his films. But
I'd say there is a slowness to a lot of them, but it's a slowness that people like me and us, I think, would enjoy. It brings you into the story, but also makes you work for it.
But and even if I just if I look at I know Prisoners is a little bit longer. That's a 2.5 hour movie. If we look at
Arrival's around the same.
yeah, and then Sicario
Probably shortest.
is 2 hours, and then I think
2:45.
but Enemy I feel like was only an hour and a half.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
But yeah, I mean just the way that Denny V if he keeps churning out films the way he does now, he's bound to have something that doesn't work.
Right.
On a broad scale, because look at all of the best.
It's not always going to be his fault either. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on the writer and the producers and the actors and everything too. He can do as much as he can, but I mean, it's not guaranteed that it's going to be a
Right.
good movie.
All the greats have a movie that they're gonna kind of a sore spot on their resume, but like you said, some of them do move at a slower pace, but still, I think it's his way of telling stories. Not that I feel like Prisoners was slow for me. Blade Runner, even, I felt it a little bit, but I wasn't like thinking about the runtime.
Yeah.
Right.
Thinking about, oh, this is just getting too long, or I wonder what time it is.
No.
But I think that's where his downfall will be, because if I asked 10 people, what'd you think of Sicario? Probably didn't see it.
Yeah.
Enemy, I know they haven't seen it. And that's kind of the issue where even when we went to Blade Runner opening night, there was a million empty seats.
Right.
And I don't
even
think
Blade Runner being probably his most commercial film, it's probably going to still divide audiences. I mean, I'm sure
Well, the first
not
one was
everyone's
the
going
first
to
one
love
was
him.
a cult classic.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, until it became just a classic.
But just
Yeah.
just thinking in an average moviegoer sense, this is still a bigger budget film on the outskirts of summer. So I bet people are going to go in thinking one thing and maybe come out a different
Probably.
way.
I mean, a lot
Maybe
of
I
there
bet
was
that's how it was with Arrival
divisiveness.
too.
There was divisiveness
there you go.
with Arrival, because there were people that I talked to who would ask me like, "Hey, what'd you think of this movie?" I'm like, "I freaking loved it. I
Yeah.
thought it was it was when we did our list. I think it was my number 2 movie of the year." And they were like, "Oh, I hated it. Like it was so boring for me." And I'm just like, "Well, to each his own, but you're wrong."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate part about it, is that I feel like when someone says it's slow or drawn out, then that's automatically a negative. Like, I wouldn't sit here and say that 12 Years a Slave is a fast-moving film, but does it hurt it? No way. No way. Because it's almost like you just want to stay there. You want to stay in that. And I think it also has to do with, you can tell even by his runtimes, the way you can go back and watch his films. His rewatchability is there. I don't know about Blade Runner for me. I mean, Blade Runner's always been a tough movie for me to go back to. Back to. But who knows? I mean, it might, and it might just grow.
I would revisit it even with the runtime for sure.
Right.
I honestly would revisit any of his films.
Definitely.
Again.
So now the hard part for us is we're gonna try to rank these babies.
Oh.
Rank these babies in order. Let's go. What do you want to go from? Not worst to first kind of thing, but like just films that, I mean, and there's some of them that are hard to access.
Yeah.
Polytechnique and Maelstrom are, the best quality we're able to find is on YouTube, which we're not even gonna mess around, and it's obviously, it takes away from the experience.
Right, for sure.
Instead of popping it in on a Blu-ray or a 4K player and being able to enjoy the hell out of like an Arrival. So if I think I speak for everyone when we say that Polytechnique and Maelstrom will be definitely on the bottom.
Yes.
So if we go ahead, I mean, even Incendies, it's a good film for me. I still think that it's below. It's kind of in those bottom 3 where it's great work and you can see what he's going to be. But really what we're debating is Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, and Blade Runner, because we've all seen it.
I really agree.
And Blade Runner is going to be difficult too, because
It's brand
we've seen
new
it
for
once.
us.
Yes. So
I think I've seen most of those only once. I think Arrival's the only one I've watched multiple times.
we know you're number 1. Let me go ahead and say I'll just do mine first. Let you guys think about it.
Sure.
And remember, this is not an an order where I think these are worst or these are bad films.
Just your
These are all
preferred
great films. Yeah, I think I'd go back to Prisoners first.
Number one?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll say Sicario second. Those two I've been back to back. And then I'll go... Enemy, Arrival, and then Blade Runner. And I'm with you. I've seen these movies at most twice.
Yeah.
And so it's still tough. I bet you a month from now or 3 months from now I would rearrange them because I love The Rival. I just have not gotten around to watch it again.
For sure.
All right, who's up next?
I can go.
All right, do it.
So top to bottom.
Sure.
Okay. My number one is Arrival. As I just said, it's the only movie I've seen more than once. I watched it in theaters with you.
Yes.
And I watched it. I forced my my dad and stepmom to watch it when I went down there for the summer.
Did I like it?
Yeah. I think my stepmom did. I don't know if my dad did. He's a picky prick, so
Ooh.
he's never getting watched.
Click the like button if you saw this. And comment.
Right.
Yeah, he spends most of his time on his phone, like playing Words with Friends anyway. So,
okay.
Watching movies with him is actually infuriating. It makes me so angry. My number 2 would be Sicario. 3 Blade Runner, 4 Prisoners, 5 Enemy.
Oh, okay. Here I go. Number 1, Arrival. Just loved it. Number 2, Prisoners. 3, Blade Runner. 4, Sicario, and 5 Enemies. Enemy. Not
Enemy,
enemies.
dude, come on.
Yeah, it's not more than one. It's just one enemy.
Just one.
All right, well, Denis V Director Breakdown is officially in the books. Go check out our Darren Aronofsky Director Breakdown and also our Christopher Nolan one from ages ago.
Yeah.
16, 17 years ago, I think it was.
November, look out for the next one for November because we have a lot of directors to pick from. What were they, Damon?
Reiner and Linklater and probably some other ones.
Alexander Payne?
No, his is December.
Oh, thank God. Makes it better
I
then.
fucked up on my phone.
Well, there's a flurry of them, so...
Yeah, so check out our Blade Runner 2049 review. Check out our other reviews. Check out our other videos. If You Ask Me is going to be coming back rather quickly. So, like, subscribe, comment, and...
Stay classy, I guess.
Yeah.
We could do...
Don't make me retire you. Damn, Blade Runner.
Zack Snyder.
Oh, Zack Snyder! I would love to do a director breakdown.
That would be fun.